crypto traders, so we got to talk about this news, which is moving the Bitcoin market and you could say the other crypto markets as well. Bitcoin over 7% as the court sides with Grayscale over the SEC in crypto ETF case. And essentially, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit ruled that the SEC was wrong to deny crypto investment giant Grayscale permission to convert its popular Bitcoin trust into an ETF, and a lot of people in the in the sector are seeing this as a very strong catalyst, which may increase the chances that the SEC will approve other Bitcoin ETF applications, including, of course, that big BlackRock one who filed in late June, and that filing was, driving the price of Bitcoin earlier this year or back in June. And of course, the US Bitcoin ETF would provide a way to get exposure to Bitcoin without actually having to hold it, just like, GLD with gold. And it would invite, more retail interest and also more institutional interest into the largest cryptocurrency in the world. However, it says so far, a spokesman for the SEC said it's reviewing the court's decision to determine the next steps. But as of now, we got a pretty big pop in Bitcoin. I just want to mention this, though. This came out on the 28th, so yesterday, that Bitcoin trading volume is at its lowest in more than 4 years. So keep that in mind, when you look at these really volatile moves, especially because we are technically still in summertime. Liquidity tends to drop a little bit in the summer, heading into September. So let's take a look at the chart of Bitcoin, and this is a chart that we've talked about in the past. Let's start on that weekly chart, just so you guys sort of see major technical levels that I am working with. And we've talked about this sort of dirty inverse head and shoulder pattern after Bitcoin found support at 15,000. You got this big breakout in March 2023, going above the 25K level. And, that was a key breakout because you were in this downtrend, you created this sort of inverse pattern, and then you got that breakout, which would sort of imply a new uptrend is beginning. And you can see here, Bitcoin did pull back to that 25,000 zone in June 2023. And we saw a big pop back up to this resistance zone, and that was because of that BlackRock filing. Remind you guys of that. And it looked like we were about to break out, but after about 4 weeks of trading at this 31K level, we just could not close above it on the weekly chart, which was our key trigger, for this weekly long-term move in Bitcoin to continue higher. Instead, we created, as I said, that major range here, and this is now daily chart, so you can sort of see the daily price action. We created this range, and I even told readers and viewers of Chart Attack here as well that a close below this 30K level would be considered a breakdown. We got a very strong red candle on July 24th, and the momentum, it just didn't continue lower until finally we got a capitulation in mid-August of this year with a huge drop. We had that big, what's on TradingView? I have a 7% down day on August 17th. You can see that Bitcoin just continued to retest the 30K level. And this is just typical price action of a breakdown and retest. And until we could, until we could close above 30K at that time, we were expecting further downside in Bitcoin. Recently, we've been close to that 25K support level here. We did see a lot of buying, a battle here between the bulls and the bears, developed a range which held for a couple of weeks. And then today, you now have that breakout backed by this Grayscale ETF news. So the question is, where do we go from here, right? This is what a lot of people are talking about. I do think that this breakout here is quite significant. A lot of day traders and intraday traders will be going down to that 1 hour chart, the 30-minute chart. Will have their support right here. Just a very typical price action here with a breakout above 26,650, let's call it. Any further moves lower, we'll see if the intraday traders will be buying the dip here to take prices higher. But if prices do close back below this 26,650 zone here on an intraday basis, then it would be quite bearish for the cryptocurrency. And you can see what we're working with here on the very minimum intraday chart as well, the 15-minute charts. And you can already see that we've already begun to develop a bit of a range here, and each of these candles represent 15 minutes of trading. So you had this one higher low, one breakout here, but just no momentum right now after a couple of hours of trading. This is about 3 hours of trading. So maybe we are going to break back below and go back to that 26,600 level on the intraday chart. But I like to look at the larger time frame. Right? That's just what I like to trade with. And I like to use my daily chart for my triggers. So this, in my opinion, we're still working with this breakdown level, this break below 30K. Yes, support is nearby at 25,000. But what I would be more comfortable with is if Bitcoin can, resume and take out this 30K level, right? That's still technically the lower high that we were working with on this chart right now, on the daily chart, which means that as long as this lower high is or remains intact, there is chances for Bitcoin to head lower. I think it would be quite significant if we can actually maybe close above this 29,000 level, because this was, again, previous support for a bit where Bitcoin just could not close below it. But as I said, it's very close to this 30K level. So let's keep an eye out on that. And still, our long-term weekly chart trigger is still in play, which requires a weekly close above all these candles here, these candle wicks above this 31,000 zone. So I think that's what you want to watch for. As I said earlier, the intraday traders are looking at this as a breakout of range. So the way you play this is you wait for that retest to see if it will come, and you can then jump in on that intraday. I always lose my arrow here whenever I draw it. So, something like this. This is something that you could play maybe in the next few days, because of course, the crypto markets are open 24/7. So there's always trading happening. But if you see, price retreats, maybe retest this 26,600 zone and continue higher, I think you'll have a good chance of, at least retesting the 29,000 to 30K zone. But that daily close above 30K still remains my choice of longer term entry in Bitcoin. And then, of course, that major weekly close that I just referred to earlier on in this video. If we take a look at Ethereum, you can sort of see that the technical charts on the intraday are pretty much the same. You have another breakout here as well on the 4-hour chart above 1,700. Same breakout, retest and momentum move higher is in play. We'll see if that actually does come into fruition. If we look at the daily chart, again, major resistance is still around this 1900 zone. And it's an area where Ethereum has struggled a few times. We had a couple of breakouts actually above it. This candle, we had another strong breakout. But every time we get these breakouts on Ethereum with a quite strong green candle, may I add, we get a fat red candle or a few fat red candles the day after, just not driving that momentum higher. So we know that there is a group of sellers around this zone here. As I said, the 1900, let's call it up to 2000 now. And if we can't get above that, then the weakness will still persist here, right? So if you are a long-term trader, watch for that. I would also keep a keen eye here on that 1800 level. And following Bitcoin right now, all I'm seeing is on the daily charts, a pullback to retest what used to be support before we see sellers re-enter. But if we can take out these major zones, then these breakdowns would be nullified, and we have a false breakdown, which is a key sign for Bitcoin pulls. So right now, yes, Bitcoin is up over 7% on this news and on this catalyst, but we'll see if this does lead to that BlackRock ETF and other ETFs coming down the road. That would, I think, be quite bullish for Bitcoin and the crypto sector, because yes, it would bring more eyes and more retail and institutional money to this market. But from what I'm seeing on the technicals, those daily levels that I mentioned in the past when we broke below are still intact and in play. And until those lower highs are taken out, I can't say that I am bullish on Bitcoin just yet. So that's it for me, folks. What do you guys think about this recent move here in Bitcoin? Do you think that this is just a relief rally and the downtrend is still going to remain intact? Or do you think that this is now a basing at support, and with this catalyst, we are starting a new uptrend, which will eventually see Bitcoin take out this 31K zone and continue higher to our next target on that weekly chart, which would be around the 37 to 38K zone. I really want to know what you guys have to say about Bitcoin. Be sure to like the video, be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys all in the next chart attack.